Subscribe or they will haunt you.
What is the scariest thing that has happened to you in near the woods? Was walking with my dog, a Karelian bear dog. She wasn't on a leash. It was my dad's lands that's in the middle of nowhere, no internet. Came across a lynx eating a rabbit. Furiously tried to command my dog to my side as I back away. She attacks, the absolute mad lad, and stole the rabbit from the lynx. The rabbit was torn in half. My dog got the butt end. The sound when they clashed was so fucking scary. Lynx ran away. I'll admit I peed my pants a little. My dog passed away a few years ago in the ripe age of 14. Be in the middle of the Australian bush, at least 50 km from any civilization or human. I'm hunting with my brother and we are startled by what seems to be a perfectly clean and unused oven. Just sitting there, no dust, nothing. It even still had warranty tags hanging off it and everything. We just continued on our way feeling confused and weirded out. Apologies for length. Hiking at Wet'suwet'en National Park in Canada. Parked the car and hiked a good 45 minutes or so up one particular trail. This trail had some neat 10-15 foot waterfalls, and even if the water flow wasn't high, these were the trail sites. They were nice. We passed families or couples being cute together along the way. Me and my companion decided we'd have a quick break, smoke some weed, and see what the rest of the trail has to offer before turning back to the car. What started as a trail wide enough that 5 people could stand shoulder to shoulder easily, it had narrowed down to a foot trail maybe 6-8 inches wide that you could only just walk single file up. About a foot or so to the left was a 10-foot drop into the river. A foot to my right was an unclimbable incline with thick vegetation. We were coming around a bend in the trail, had about 40 feet of straight path before it disappeared around another bend. It was at that exact moment that 2 adolescent black bears rounded the bend down that path, and the lead bear had looked right at us in what felt like an eternity, but was likely 5-10 seconds. We slowly started backing away, and I gave the greatest war cry that would put Gromhellscream from the Warcraft universe to shame. It did basically nothing. The lead bear kept looking but stopped moving. Its partner walked into its butt and gave both a little startle. They were focused on each other as we disappeared around the bend, staring at the bears as we did. A few steps backward later, after losing line of sight, and it was 5 minutes of running as light-footed as possible before we saw another human. We never saw the mama black bear, but she had to be close, real close. It scared the shit out of both of us, and we spent the 3-hour drive back home basically just periodically yelling "fucking bears" during sentences or in moments of silence. I used to work on a wilderness trail crew way back in the backcountry in southern New Mexico. We saw our share of everything from black bears and rattlesnakes to scorpions and black widows. For one trip, it was just me and one other crew member finishing the last little bit of a through trail. We'd worked as far as possible from either end with bigger crews and just had to fix up the dead middle of the trail. We had a few pack animals with us to carry our tools, and other than that we were alone. 3 days into the 6-day trip, I noticed a deer hanging around our camp. It's not that unusual. The horses have a sort of pellet food we bring out for them, and both deer and bears like it, so we have to chase them off every once in a while. What was unusual was this deer wasn't standing near the food. She was on the other edge of camp alone, just standing there. There were no other deer anywhere around. Odd for an animal that travels in herds. But again, I didn't think too much of it the first day, and the day after I saw her again, and the third day. She never came near the food at all, nor were there any deer with her ever. She didn't even move very much and was basically always in the same spot. The third day I decided she was kind of creeping me out, and I went out to try and shoo her away. Most deer are skittish and run as soon as they see you coming near them. She stood absolutely still, head up, faced my way, and then I saw her eyes. All deer have dark eyes, but hers were solid black and hollowed into her head. They were matte instead of shiny, and black goo dripped down the fur below them. I fucking ran back to my camp. She still didn't run, but just sort of shuffled off later. She was still around the next day, but thankfully we were packing out and I didn't have to get near her. Later I realized it was probable she had something like chronic wasting disease or some other problem deer can get, and I'm sure if I hadn't been so startled by the eyes, I would have seen that she was emaciated or had other open lesions. But this scared me so fucking much I thought she was some kind of monster. My crewmate didn't like her either, but only said, yeah, there's something wrong with that one. Walking a trail to an old fort late at night to take Milky Way photos, I began to hear voices. Really, they were unintelligible whispers. Soon one whisper became many that surrounded me. I felt something tug at my shirt and that was it. I noped the hell out of there. I got back to my car and drove to a brightly lit gas station in the middle of nowhere that felt like a beacon of light and security. Later on in the evening I went to an old cemetery and took photos comfortably for the rest of the evening. I could not focus enough going to the old fort to figure out how to operate my camera, but was completely at ease in the cemetery. Still the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. Still don't know what to make of it. I was walking in the woods behind my house and came across a tiny cluttered area with an old shed. I was intrigued because it was in remarkable condition for being in the middle of nowhere with no trail leading to it. On closer inspection I saw that there were garbage bags taped to the windows inside, and the shed was locked with a heavy padlock. I pulled the chain, trying to open it, out of curiosity and stupidity. I decided to walk to the edge of the little clearing and see if I could see anything in the woods on the other side. As I was peering through the trees, out of the corner of my eye I saw something move. I looked up, and there was a camera following my every movement. That is when I realized what I had found was not ruins of an old farm, and I got the hell out of there. I was terrified that I was going to be attacked by some gang. Faith was growing, making whatever, but my dad told me I probably looked like Alice in Wonderland out there and not to worry. It'd been over 13 years, so I think he was right. I had an experience so similar to this I instantly almost cried while reading this. For context, I was with two friends. I was 13 and I am a female. My friend Deezy was 14 per Fahrenheit and our friend Monkey, yes, that was literally his nickname, was 17. We lived in a trailer park that had a horse farm with woods on 3 sides of it as well as a large field and train tracks behind it. Deezy and I had snuck out to hang out and walk around the park with Monkey. He was older, so we tried to impress him. You know, dumb, underage, teen mentality. We all decided to sit next to a collection of mailboxes and smoke cigarettes that we likely stole from our parents and talk. Yes, I realized now how uncool this was. While we were talking, I seen what I thought was a white man in white sweatpants and white sweater during the summer dancing in place. I got the attention of Deezy and Monkey to look at that. Deezy said she couldn't see anything. It was around 2 a.m. on a very bright moonlight night. Monkey started laughing and said that he could see it. Deezy asked what we were looking at and I replied, "You seriously don't see that crazy guy?" She still claimed she couldn't see anyone or anything besides the trailers. She then asked, "What is he doing?" Monkey and I both answered without missing a beat, "It looks like he is dancing." Deezy then suggested we walk towards him. Yes, I realized this is an even more idiotic idea. Could have been a crackhead since we were in a trailer park. Yet Monkey and I both willingly stood up and walked towards the guy. Here is the kicker. When we walked forward, he danced backwards. Monkey and I both stopped and gave each other weird looks while Deezy was oblivious to what we were seeing. We stepped back a few feet and he walked towards us dancing. We thought it was a friend by this point that was messing with us. We all three walked towards this guy while he was dancing backwards all the way to the field on the side of the park. When he stepped into the field, There was a street light a few feet from him. Our neighborhood didn't have many lights for many years. I thought we would see who he was then. I was wrong. We kept walking and he finally backed up enough to be under the light. He was gone. Monkey and I stopped walking and both yelled to each other in disbelief. Did you maybe add a choice word here? See that? We talked about it for a bit, got creeped out but running on adrenaline. We were excited. We finally went home. DZ never saw anything, Monkey and I told others, but people thought we made it up. I still cannot stand to look down the street at night, even with street lights. Sorry, this comment is long and may be confusing. I hope it is easy to follow. Not really woods, but a fairly small woody bushy area I passed through twice a day. On my route from the bus stop to work, a local woman had gone missing following leaving a nightclub, and the police were scouring the city center. I was getting really creepy vibes from this area every time I passed through, just thinking about it, but assume the police would have searched the area. They found the body there 10 or so days later in a pretty inaccessible position, raped and murdered. I must have passed 15 feet away from her maybe 15 times or more during the time. At one of my cousin's first birthdays, a girl I just met and myself decided to go and explore the woods behind my aunt's house. There were little trails, and being the active 7-year-old I was, I wanted to escape the boring conversations of the party and run around the very heavily wooded area. So this girl and I are following this one path, and I'm not really paying attention until we decide we're bored and hungry. So of course we go to turn around and walk back. We didn't recognize anything. At first, I thought it was just an area we hadn't been paying attention to, but soon I realized we're walking in a circle around this very large tree. At some point we decide to try a branch off of the trail. Down this path, we find a large metal rod, which I thought at the time was very odd. Looking back, I still have absolutely no idea what it was. The best way to describe it is a golden flagpole type rod, and being kids we decide if anything we should bring it back with us. We start walking with this large rod until we come to this gate I've never seen before. We look in and I feel a bit of relief as I recognize the building near it is my aunt's neighbor, and now I have an idea of where we are in relation to her house. However, two things happened. It thundered. We heard cracking nearby. Now, the first thing was a major scare, to me at least, because we're holding this big ass metal rod, and while I now know it's improbable we would have been hurt, I knew that this large rod could draw lightning. But we are 7, and did I mention this other girl was 5-year-olds were caught mainly by the cracking. It sounded different than the small animals we'd heard while walking about, and the area doesn't have any large predators like bears or wolves. It sounded heavy. The little girl immediately thought we should run toward it, as she thought it was one of our parents who'd come looking for us. I on the other hand couldn't shake that it was bad. I was very paranoid about stranger danger, and even am to this day. I told her that it came from the wrong way. The house was to our left. The sound was far away somewhere right of us. She tried to tell me I was wrong, but then we started to hear it again. It was definitely walking. It wasn't an animal scurrying around. I took her hand, slowly put down the rod, and told her that we'd run on 3. At this point, I think she could tell I was freaking out, cause she didn't make a sound. She was silent. I can't remember if the noise stopped or not. I think I was too focused on not crying or something. But on 3, we bolted. I was basically dragging this child through the woods, and at some point we got back to that big tree, and I realized we still had no idea how to get out. I stopped us for a moment, and that's when I could hear the noises. It was sprinting. In that moment of complete panic, I started screaming. Little fact about me, I'm loud. Even at 7, I was a freakishly loud person. I couldn't hear the noise over my screaming, but for some reason I felt like I scared it. Child logic. I DK and just started down another path. The little girl, bless that child's heart, was sobbing at this point. We were just running because we didn't know what else to do. Then, I heard the most heavenly thing. My older brother, my brother 10 at the time, was screaming my name. I ran toward his voice. I don't know how, but somehow we got to the clearing that the trails start at. My brother was there and I saw my mom and a few other adults running up behind him. The second I saw them I started sobbing. The little girl ran to her dad and I collapsed in front of my mom. My mom didn't scold me or anything. I think she could tell I was already really freaked out and was just happy I was okay. My brother on the other hand was very protective for the rest of the party. He was always within a few feet of me, and he kept staring into the woods if we were outside. Funny enough, it's never come up again. My aunt and her family moved out a few years later, but when visiting, my brother would always keep us from going back into that woods, especially me. It's been 15 years, and I still wonder what exactly was in there that day. I also wonder if my brother saw anything. I've always wanted to know, but been too awkward to ask. Who knows?